What? Well, time to air out some grievances.
The Emergency Alert System, invented in the late 90s in the US as a way to quickly notify the public of dangerous or otherwise noteworthy situations. Mostly notable for weather and amber alerts happening at 2 a.m., the EAS can also be used for a slew of different warnings, watches, and advisories. But it isn't always accurate. Either due to some kind of error or some trolls winning a laugh, there have been several times when the EAS messed up in extreme ways. From erroneously claiming that a nuclear missile was inbound, to announcing the start of the zombie apocalypse, the EAS has hosted some of the craziest things. And because of the idea of it being scary and having accurate information, some people probably believe what was being said. So let's take a look at those times when the EAS messed up, broadcasting several things that caused either panic or confusion in those who had to hear it, but it turned out to be nothing but a hoax. Throughout 2017 and 2018, the US was very fearful over North Korea, specifically their access and willingness to release nuclear missiles. Hawaii, being one of the closest states to North Korea, was especially scared, even testing their missile sirens for the first time since the Cold War. But even though everyone was a bit on edge, North Korea wouldn't actually release those missiles onto Hawaii, right? On January 13th, 2018 at 8:07 a.m. Hawaii Standard Time, the EAS sounded across all devices that could get it in Hawaii. On phones, it stated the following: "Ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii. Seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill." And on TV, it said that this was issued by the US Pacific Command and told those listening how and where to seek shelter.
The U.S. Pacific Command has detected a missile threat to Hawaii. This is not a drill. If you are indoors, stay indoors. If you are outdoors, seek immediate shelter in a building.
In response, Hawaiian citizens acted calmly and appropriately in the situation. They freaked the fuck out. Mass panic ensued, as you'd expect when you're told your small state is going to be bombed with missiles. Throughout the next 38 minutes, there was a scramble to retract this alert from everything. After confirming there was indeed no missile launched, officials prevented the alert from spreading further, and then started spreading the message that the previous alert wasn't real. Now, how did this happen? Well, in the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency, a drill was taking place internally, training officers during a challenging situation. This challenge was that this drill took place during a shift change. The drill sounded entirely like a real missile attack, but with exercise, exercise, exercise being said at the start and end. This does mean that the message itself said this is not a drill, but it in fact was. A warning officer at the alert origination location apparently heard the "this is not a drill" portion, but not the several exercise comments at the start and end, and thought that there was an actual attack on the state, sending an alert out to the entire state of Hawaii. What a good system there, huh? Admittedly, this isn't the first time a threat seemingly has been aired from North Korea, as in August 2017, radio stations KTWG and KSTO in Guam aired a civil danger warning, with no message attached. This was done a few days after North Korea threatened Guam with missiles, so the message seemed to be an imminent missile attack. Nonetheless, it was cancelled 15 minutes later. Overall, however, no one died from a missile attack, and this was just a blip in error. But this was very real to some people, as North Korea has caused real missile alerts, albeit in Japan over places like Aomori. But what about something a little more fictional? From February 2013 to February 2017, viewers in the states of Montana, Michigan, Wisconsin, and New Mexico were greeted with a strange emergency alert message. The alert was a local area emergency, which isn't anything too out of the norm, but the audio message portion was the weird part of this. The message read,
"Civil authorities in your area have reported that the bodies of the dead are rising from their graves and attacking the living. Follow the messages on screen that will be updated as information becomes available. Do not attempt to approach or apprehend these bodies as they are considered extremely dangerous. This station will now cease transmission, so please use your battery-powered radio. Tune in to 9:20 a.m. for information."
Now, I'm sure there are a lot of questions. First off, that first line is taken almost word for word from the Anthrax song Fight 'Em Till You Can't. Secondly, there were no messages on screen at any point during the broadcast, just the standard EAS tickers that had the bare bones essentials for an EAS message. And thirdly, the stations didn't cease transmission, and I very highly doubt that 9:20 a.m. was transmitting information on the incoming zombie apocalypse, considering it was never happening. After this, the FCC and FEMA both urged broadcasters in the regions to change their passwords and up their security. But when you're dumb and or clumsy, those security measures don't matter. 2 days after the original incidents, a radio talk show in Wisconsin played the audio from their original airings, with the same headers, which then in turn made the alert yet again air on that station. And then in 2017, the radio section WZZY in Indiana was hijacked and aired the same alert, causing the sheriff's department to clarify that there were, in fact, no zombies. Much to the dismay of someone, probably. Now, according to the FBI and FCC, the hack came from overseas, to which the hacker or hackers were caught and arrested, reportedly. Nothing else has been said about them, though. No identities or charges were ever revealed, so we'll have to believe the FBI. And they're always the most trustworthy people. This erroneous alert is pretty famous. It's pretty hard to ignore when an alert claims that the undead are finally taking revenge on humanity. And here's another famous one, this time with the conspiracy theory attached to it.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
On September 28, 2016, WKTV in Utica, New York aired an alert that was pretty strange. A hazardous materials warning for the entire United States, with the message being the strangely ominous, "Would you, could you, on a train." Afterwards, WKTV apologized for the alert and explained it away as an automated test from FEMA that was meant to be internal, the message being a placeholder quote from Dr. Seuss's Green Eggs and Ham. That makes perfect sense. A normal internal test alert that accidentally made its way to the public. Nothing too bad, right? Well, that's where the theories come in. A day later in Hoboken, New Jersey, a train crashed at the Hoboken terminal. 114 people were injured, and 1 person was killed. After investigation, it appeared the engineer had some undiagnosed sleep apnea and fell asleep at the wheel, so to speak. It's truly a tragic thing to have happened, but that EAS spawned several theories. Because the line mentioned a train and it was set to expire on the 29th, the day of the crash, plenty of people assumed that this wasn't an accidental releasing of an internal test, but rather a hijacker foreshadowing the events of that day. It's not. Honestly, trying to cover up something like this with a theory that feels very loosely tied together is pretty horrible. It's creepy enough on its own, you don't need to attach it to an event that resulted in the loss of life. Plus, the timing on the alert was wrong, although many people choose to ignore that. Either way, it's known for that, and it can be a little creepy if you don't know the backstory. But now, let's take a look at a real hijacking, this time with memes and jokes galore.
Number 15. Burger King foot lettuce.
In February 2020, users of Wave Broadband in Jefferson County, Washington, received several EAS alerts starting around 8:30 p.m. The first one was pretty innocuous, although still insanely out of the ordinary. A radiological hazard warning for the entirety of Washington. Except after the attention tone, the message wasn't relayed, but rather Young Thug and Gunna's Hot was played instead. Then they just kept going, this time with several funny messages at the top. These included, change your password, Pepega Clap, sub to Vinesauce on Twitch, twitch.tv/Vinesauce, and their ending message, I'm done, you can rest now. Mr. Gerd was here. This Mr. Gerd also changed up his audio choice, changing to 645 AR's For the Trap for the Vinesauce message, and then Top 15's infamous reading of the Burger King foot lettuce story for his final message. Honestly, if you're gonna risk being fined big money for hacking into the EAS, you might as well make it entertaining. And hell, it even lived on, as the required monthly test for March 2nd and 3rd actually kept the final message text at the top, apparently just being a remnant of the attacks. And as far as I can find, the hijacker hasn't been caught, and if he ever is, I'm rooting for his freedom. This is one of the funniest hacks of the EAS I've seen in a while. And for a final entry for this video, let's take a look at when the audio just screws up and ends up transmitting something entirely different.
Run for your lives! Everyone run for cover!
These are 2 different instances happening several years apart and under very different circumstances. The first was the November 2011 National EAS test, the first of its kind. Now, I'm sure we're all aware that these national tests don't always go to plan. Some people don't receive them, they can glitch out on TV and radio, it just feels like a mess. But for DirecTV viewers this 2011 day, some of them reported a very Interesting message. Instead of the standard robotic message we're all accustomed to, they got Lady Gaga's paparazzi. This is certainly one of Gaga's weirdest performances, but I'll take it. Now this can be explained away by just how DirecTV works. When a channel goes off the air, it reverts to music. EAS headers are put on top of those off-the-air stations, and then are simulcasted across all stations, hence us then being alerted to Gaga. Another mess up in audio happened in September 2017, with Californian radio station KWVE somehow omitting the end of message tone, causing some listeners in Orange County to hear a part of Chuck Swindoll's Insight for Living program. Now, KWVE is a Christian talk and teaching program, and at the time of this program, they were talking about 2 Timothy chapter 3 verse 1 from the Bible. This know also, that in the last days perilous times shall come. Now, if I heard that over the EAS, I'd definitely think the world was coming to an end. Okay, I wouldn't, but I know at least someone definitely did. Of course, this is just your bog standard Christian broadcasting, but to hear it on the EAS is a whole nother thing. Either way, it was just a mess up on KWVE's part, omitting the ending tones, but this was right in the time when people thought the world was going to end. Apparently, 2 days after this alert aired, September 23rd, 2017, was a day that the world was meant to end, according to David Mead, a, quote, specialist in research and investigations. Something something the Book of Revelations, something something the planet Nibiru hitting Earth, something something crazy person. And yet we all eat that shit up, huh? Either way, the world didn't end on that day, to much of our collective dismay, and that EAS alert wasn't a foreshadowing. The EAS is considered pretty outdated with how it sounds and looks, but you have to admit it packs a punch. If the EAS wasn't considered this scary, maybe a lot of these wouldn't be notable. But even if it was more modernized, things like this could happen. As I've said before, the 3 constants in life are death, taxes, and errors, and the EAS has shown that several times here. And of course, there are those few trolls and hijackers who want to see nothing but chaos unfold. But beside all of that, the EAS should be treated with respect. Normally, only those who have good intentions have access to the EAS, so believe it. Unless it definitely seems quite out there. Then maybe think about if it's legit or not.
Oh, you have to be kidding me.